Hi, this is Bruce Linton. I have a program called the Father's Forum, and I appreciate that Larry and Hogan invited me to be in the Dad's Virtual World Summit. Special thank you to Hogan, who really over the years has done so much for dads in so many ways. I'm going to talk a little bit, not too long, about why fatherhood matters. Um, we all know that the more father's involved with his child, the better self-esteem, better social skills, tends to um, do better in cooperative activities. There's lots of ways where fathers matter when it comes to their children. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I think we're all at this point pretty much aware being an involved dad has its challenges and a lot of joy and a lot of fun, and that certainly kids whose fathers are involved benefit immensely in their lives from getting both the perspective of the mom and the dad. And hopefully that's a dad who's patient, but even if it's not a dad who's patient, our commitment to our kids conveys to them our loving. Again, not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about why fatherhood matters to us as men, because I think nothing more has changed my life than becoming a father and how that has evolved over the years. And my children are 33 and 29 now, and I'm actually a grandfather at this point, getting to enjoy my almost 1-year-old granddaughter, Heidi, a lot. And, I think just in stepping back right now and saying, watching that arc of life, my kids grow up, go through all the life challenges they've had to go through to establish themselves in the world, and participating in the ways that I can, from being very involved to not so involved to learning how to be supportive and appreciative, that they know what they're doing and they'll make their own mistakes and they will recover from them. That has been wonderful to see, and I would have never expected that this is the direction my life would have taken, because I never really thought about becoming a father. And as it unfolded in my relationship with my wife at the time, it really opened a door. And that door has been what the Father's Forum and what the work I have been doing over the last 25, 28 years now is really all about. And it's to recognize that when we have children, something very dramatic changes inside us. And if I had to kind of break it down to one thing that you could take away with you, it would be we learn to care about someone more than we care about ourselves. And that is such a profound opening of emotion and empathy for us as men, something that I think we've often been cut off from in our growing up. And I think it's better for boys now, but I still think we live in a society that puts a lot of pressure and stress on us to be successful, to be cool, to be in charge, to kind of shut down a little bit of our emotional dependency needs on other people, which are normal and healthy and show our ways in which we're connected, but we've got to go it alone. When I was growing up, it was the old kind of macho image, but I think has changed a lot for young men today. And maybe there's some young fathers watching in their 20s or 30s, and you've grown up at a time where having more access to your emotions is important. Not only important, but it's easier to do, I think. But still, once you have a child, and particularly if you get to see your child being born, something really begins to unfold. And I guess my message about how fatherhood matters is that unfolding continues to develop over the course of your life. I did research for my dissertation on the developmental stages of fatherhood for men, and I saw that there were 4 distinct phases that we go through as fathers. The initial stage is the emergent stage, is what I call it. It used to be called the crisis stage, that having a child created a crisis. And I think there are aspects of that, but I think it really is more like an emergency or an emergence. Something is coming up, something we really don't know, we can't predict how it's going to be, and that's our first lesson. That how do we tolerate the uncertainty of entering a whole realm of life that we know nothing about? We, so, beginning to move in that direction and, starting to discover things about ourselves. Maybe we reflect on our own fathers, and that can go both ways. If we've got a father that was loving and nurturing and helpful, hey, we can incorporate those things into us as we become dads. If we had a father who was difficult, challenging, abusive, you can look at those things and say, hey, I can do this differently with my child, and in doing differently for your child, what matters is you're giving back something to yourself. You see, you have the capacity in yourself to give in a way that you didn't get, but it was inside you all along. So there's that beginning stage of fatherhood where we begin to develop through this emergent phase of this opening up of emotion. I also see it as a birth of a new kind of empathy. It's great for our children. It's terrific for our wife. I think it benefits everyone around us. And then the next phase on the journey that we come across is a phase that I call the attachment phase. And in that phase, we're starting to bond and get close and develop a family with our wives. We're often on the sidelines still, kind of watching what's called the nursing couple, but we're beginning to feel some initial connections as a family. And then that phase is very important. That's, goes through the first year. We kind of come together in this, we're part of this new configuration, which is more than just us as a man, includes our wife or our partner and our child. But that's that first movement towards a greater connection with a bigger world. And then what I discovered in my research was dads who then connected with other dads in what I call the affiliation phase really got a great sense of how that the challenges and the transitions, the changes they were going through became sort of grist for the mill of their own development. And dads who are able in this affiliation phase to be with other fathers tend to find that they enjoy fatherhood more and they feel more competent as dads. And that's what I pretty much dedicated my professional life and career to, is helping with that affiliation phase through the program that I do called the Father's Forum. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that when I'm finished. And then the final phase is the community phase, and that's when we've made it through the first couple of years and we're starting to connect with some of our friends, maybe a preschool, maybe kindergarten, maybe our kids start to play Little League soccer or t-ball, just any kind of activity that takes us outside of our family and into the world, and then we begin to develop these other relationships. So again, we're being held or we feel part of a bigger community. But key to our own development in that community phase is also how we start to be concerned more about what I'd call civic matters. Do we have clean water? Do we have clean air? What's the quality of the food we eat? Do we have good schools? Are people being treated equitably in our community? So it takes us into a larger world. So those four phases, the emergent stage, the attachment phase, the affiliation phase, and the community phase, although I structure them around the work in the Father's Forum of the first 5 years, they really continue our whole lives as we are parents and fathers to our children. The community stage, I met wonderful people when my kids were in junior high and high school, when they went away to college, other kinds of things came in. And then the attachments were increasing as they had other friends, and now that they're both married, then there's other families now that I'm attached to. So I feel like I'm being held by a large, wonderful, loving group of people, and I think that excuse me, get choked up on that. Part of that makes it possible for me is what I say when I say why fatherhood matters. If we can allow ourselves as dads, as we can allow ourselves as men to feel those connections and allow ourselves to appreciate the others in our life and all of these different relationships, then we find that as much as we have given our children, we've gotten so much more back in our own growth and our own development and our own feeling a place and a being in the world. So that's why fatherhood matters, because it changes us as men, makes us more connected, more loving, and more committed to the people and the communities we live in. So that's why fatherhood matters. So thank you very much for listening. If you'd like information about the Father's Forum, let me say briefly what that is. I've been doing men's groups for expectant and new fathers for a very long time, bringing together groups of dads, about 7 men in each group. And it's for that period of time when they're just getting started, from when you're like an expectant dad or when your baby's born, to share those early years of becoming a father with other dads and get the appreciation, understanding, and really hear the stories that everybody's telling, so you can say, geez, you know, I thought that was just me, but in fact, it's happening to all of us. We all have to go through it in a little different way, but it happens to all of us. And I use these 4 phases of fatherhood that I've described as kind of the backdrop of how we're evolving as men. So again, there's no greater challenge than being a father. There's no greater gift than being a father. And I think it is a wonderful path to one's own enlightenment, being a father. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the other talks and at this World Conference on the web for dads. So take good care. Bye-bye for now.